So today I'm going to try to be fixing one of the mistakes I made in one of my other build videos. I tried making this $500 computer with an Intel Arc graphics card in here. I sold the graphics card, but I'm going to be keeping this AMD Ryzen 5 5500 CPU and the two Corsair 16GB, that's 16GB in total, two 8GB Corsair 3200 megahertz Vengeance RAM. I'm going to be keeping that. I'm going to be keeping the motherboard too. So the mistake I made was this case was too small for the graphics card. It couldn't breathe. So and the CPU did overheat. So one thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to be putting in a new CPU cooler, and I'm going to also this PSU right here. It has some terrible noise, so I'm going to be switching out the power supply actually to a smaller power supply, and I'm going to be, as I sold the graphics card, I'm going to be replacing the graphics card from the Intel to a 1070 white edition Intel NVIDIA graphics card instead, because I'm simply just relying much more on NVIDIA for gaming. Also, I'm going to be using this case I bought from something called Mars Gaming. See, this is still going to be a budget build, and I found this company called Mars Gaming that makes these budget cases. I don't know if they are actually available in the US, but they are selling these all over the EU. So I'm still making this as a budget build, and I found this case as a very cheap one, and I really like this as a different form factor than I have built in before, and also because I wanted it to be a white case. I don't know if it's already possible for you to see this on the video, but in here there are two fans included here and one fan included in the back. So there's already a fan setup, and the other one needed some more cooling, and I liked this one as a very cheap case. Has this dual chamber design so that you can put the power supply in the back, and you can have the nice clean layout here in the front. And also because I'm going to be putting in a white CPU cooler, this one, and I'm going to be putting in a white graphics card. I got this used, the Asus 1070, and I'm going to see how this will perform. And also this is also a test to see how much looks matters when you're going to sell this as a used build, because I am still trying to selling this Fujitsu build that I built in this old office PC, and no one wants to buy it because frankly it looks like an old computer, whereas this is going to be looking like a much better gaming PC. Already I can say that it looks like it has finger screws almost everywhere on this build, which is super nice. As far as I can remember, it was about 50 or something dollars for this case. The main problem with this tiny case was simply that there was not enough room for the graphics card to breathe any air in, whereas the new case actually has room for fans at the bottom if I wanted to do that. So it didn't take long. Now I have already taken out the motherboard and the CPU and the RAM. Now I don't need this case anymore. As I previously said, I'm going to be using everything on this, except I'm not going to be using the stock cooler. I'm going to be replacing it with a cheap cooler from Thermalright. This is about $20, but compared to the stock cooler, this should be much better cooling solution. Also, this is white and has some white RGB on it. And the case, the March case, also have the same kind of RGB inside of it. So now let's see, this has been used for not a lot of time. Let's see how the thermals, let's see how the thermal paste has looks underneath here after it has just been mounted for like a few days. Thermal paste actually still looks pretty good underneath there, equally spread. So this one does not have any thermal paste, which is why I actually went out to buy some. I would be happy with this one. I think it's actually quite fine. But I went out and bought our bracket on here. But I bought some thermal paste just to make sure I had enough. It was only like a couple of extra dollars. I bought the cheapest of cheap thermal paste I could find, and as you can see, it is actually the same brand as the PC case, which is quite funny. But I think this Mars Gaming is a brand that tries to get into the EU market with some cheap products. Now let's see if they are actually worth anything. I don't want to overdo it because I actually think it's fine with the amount that's still here. Oh, so in the package with the Thermalright one, so I didn't actually have to, there's actually a whole tube of this thermal paste included, so I didn't actually have to buy this. Now I know that for another time. Okay, so right now I'm stuck because actually this Thermalright cooler I bought was for an Intel CPU, and I can't really do anything about that right now, so I'm going to be mounting the old stock cooler, and then I'm going to go forward with the build. See, I made the mistake of thinking that it was a universal mount that was with this cooler, simply because I hadn't checked my stuff yet. So now I'll be mounting this in my build right here. I actually think it's smartest to maybe mount the power supply first. We'll start off by mounting the power supply. One thing I like about cases like this is that the power supply is really going to have great airflow, as it's pulling air in from this side instead of pulling air in from the bottom of the case, and there's just a lot more air at the side with the mesh panel like this than there is on the bottom of any case at all. So that's going to be so much nicer. It looks like I'm only able to fasten this with 3 screws in the back, but that's not a real problem. And then I'm going to do this that I always forget. I'm going to put in this I/O shield at the back and make sure it sits the right way. Oh, with no power supply or anything in this case, this is such a breeze to get in here. There's so much room. Simply so nice to be installing a board inside of a case with so much extra room in it, which you can see. Take a look at how much room there is actually left over in a micro ITX case for this. There is plenty of room for fans down here to blow air up into the GPU, but I'm going to be using the stock configuration as a beginning. Now we are at the fun part of installing this white graphics card into this build. This should fit right in. Click, click. Then it's installed, and then this power right here. I need to mount graphics card with two. And then I need to mount the graphics card with 2 screws so that it won't sag like it's actually sagging right now. I actually think that this is a very, very clean build, even though there is no white cables and there is no white CPU cooler. It still feels very clean, and this is all because of the case. Now let's get some power in this and let's see if everything works, because I always tend to mess up the power button. I'm just going to move it over here to my touch bench where I currently have my other computer that I built in my latest video. You can go watch that. This is the video with the $160 computer, which is actually surprisingly good, although it's a very heavy case. So let's plug in this thing and see if I plugged in at the right places. Now this time we're going to be testing if the power, so there's light here and ooh, now look at this. This actually looks quite good. So all the RGB just works straight out of the box. I'll just plug in some of the rest of the things. So as you can see right now, the RGB and this is just super. It just works, and I actually think the case looks quite good. Obviously, you want this part to be white as well, so that the RGB lights up this part. Now I think we need to restart it again in order to get, maybe we can change this to the first one. Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling extra stupid right now. See, the cooler I bought was actually universal as I first thought. So I just need to figure out how to fit it in, and I'm going to be installing this thermalright cooler right now. First I'm going to take out the stock cooler once again. First I need to take off the stock cooler again so that I can mount this thermalright cooler. Now I've done some Googling and it should be just an easy oops. So this was quite hard to install this while the motherboard is in the case, but once I just figured it out, it was somewhat manageable to do. I think I want to have this in front and this way. So the sad thing about this is that this actually needs to be plugged into an ARGB controller, and I don't have that. So I'm hoping that this will just use some standard ARGB profile when being turned on, but let's see how it's going to look, because I don't actually really know if it's going to turn on the RGB without the ARGB controller installed. But now it still looks a lot better with this white build. So now I'm getting as I feared, it is not turning on the fan right here without an ARGB controller, and I'm not going to be putting in an ARGB controller. I'm just going to be now it's all up to do some testing. I think I'm going to be reversing the CPU fan, but then I'm going to be doing some testing in some games.